So, welcome everybody for our study session for our board meeting. Those who are present, we have Jeremy, can you hear me?
Hello, thank you.
Thank you. Susan?
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay, Susan, Doug, Nancy, Joyce and I will be here, and I understand Jennifer is on her way. We have our business administrator, our superintendent, Paula, and a couple others from the district, so we're grateful to have you here. So let's quickly look at our agenda for tonight and see if there's, I'm hoping everybody had a chance to look through things to see if some of these items would fall into the category of potentially moving to our consent calendar before our board meeting. So with that in mind, let's just, are there questions to start with regards to well, if anything with regards to the recommend personnel actions, financial reports, or minutes? Anybody have anything?
No.
If not, then let's go right into the item 4D. We have those attachments for student travel. Joyce?
I actually had a question on the HOSA for both Bedlam and Ogden. Are they in different categories or something because the dates are different?
Yeah, I believe that is actually the case.
Is that why?
Yes.
Okay,
Trying to remember the events. We'll get more information on that.
okay, I just wanted to verify because
The
Bedlam
discrepancy
was
between the dates.
22 to 26 June and Ogden was 24 to 27 June.
Verify.
All right. Otherwise, everybody's okay with that?
And DECA is, I mean, there could be that possibility that it'll be canceled just because of timing.
Yep.
Because it's April.
Yep.
Okay.
Let's see, the next item then we have is the approval of the ticketing system subscription renewal. Questions with regards to that? I don't remember who's supposed to,
Is that Casey's?
Casey, that's yours.
Oh, that's what, so that's the,
Just the regular renewal?
it's,
Correct,
it's a software renewal, right?
correct.
Anybody have comments with regards to that or questions for Casey? If not, are you okay if we move that item up to our consent calendar?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you. And while you're here, you wanna go through the items that are technology
whiteboards.
related? Yeah, the whiteboard approval,
I believe, are we talking the interactive TVs for James Madison?
yes.
Yeah, that's just me and Julie working together to increase learning at James Madison to make it more active, more interactive, so students can participate more. And her plan that she's proposed in working with IT is to put 20 of these interactive ViewSonics throughout the entire school in the classrooms. ViewSonic provides free cloud whiteboarding, interaction with Chromebooks. It's all included with that. She's gonna purchase the TVs with her funds, and IT will purchase the wiring for the building to support her initiative.
Wonderful. Sounds good. Anybody have comments with regards to that?
That's not the one that she's splitting with Title and Land Trust, or is that something different? I saw an email from her today. Yes.
Yeah.
It's saying, okay.
And I believe also, correct me if I'm wrong, some of the turnaround funds for state.
Are these items that could be transferred from, like a closing school? Or,
No, the TVs would be net new to James Madison, but the projectors we take out could be moved to another location in need.
Any other questions? Just got a text, Jennifer's on her way, so she'll be here shortly.
Paula, do we have hard copies of this? Mine won't come up, so. Okay.
Okay, our HP support contract renewal. Any questions of people? board members have with regards to that?
It's not coming up either, but I did look at it earlier. I think it's
Mr.
consent item.
Mine's coming and going, thank goodness
Yeah.
mine's here right now. Last time we met, mine wasn't, so. Jeremy, you're good, Susan, you're good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm good. Don, I just had a question.
sure.
I'm just curious, who submitted this information for our approval?
I'm assuming it's Casey did this.
The HP support, yep,
Yes.
that's me as well.
Okay, I just wanted to know who it was, thanks.
Mike Kipwell contributed a lot to that, being the network and security supervisor, but yes, I submitted it.
Great,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Item 4H is the approval of the Heritage Elementary Land Trust Plan refinement. I'm hoping that our less trust land individuals will have a chance to look at that.
Yeah.
It looked pretty clean.
Yep.
Okay,
Are those items that can be moved up also?
Yes.
Cut down?
Yep.
I'd propose to move them if that's the case.
any questions with regards to the land trust?
Cause I looked at it.
I got clarification from JM. It says a set of Chromebooks, and
That's the one.
she had answered that there are 36 Chromebooks in each set, so that would be 72.
That's good for you then, to move it up? Jeremy,
Yeah, fine, thanks.
thank you. Okay, so then those are items that just any other questions, I think they're already there on the consent calendar, but just the idea of any questions to keep them there. Committee reports,
And the correspondence.
that's, yeah, that's already in the consent calendar, we should have looked at that, but wanna make sure we have no questions. Let's jump down, committee reports, have you met?
No, we had to cancel.
Well, we met, but
We met,
you wanna just hold off though?
we may hold off on those public
Ours
participations.
isn't that exciting, so.
Okay, we may hold off on that. It was a good meeting, we just may hold off on it. Increasing student achievement, if I looked at item 9A, our student fee schedule,
Do you want me to speak to that?
please, superintendent, go keep us up to date on that.
Sure. The student fee schedule, under state board rule and state statute for that matter, requires that local board of education annually review and approve student fee schedule. Given last year's legislative session, some changes were made in there. And you're seeing those changes in the document where you have the activity, now you have the amount, now you have a spend plan and another column for whether or not they can fundraise for that amount. It's really the spend plan that gets into the specifics, and you're able to take a look at, see, okay, if a certain event costs X amount of dollars, how are those dollars used? Also a requirement that is new from that legislation is that we push out to the communities, to the families in our schools, the fee schedule and get feedback on it. That differs a little bit from years past because the public comment period would take place in a regular board meeting, as this would, in this situation. And but we wouldn't necessarily have to advertise it outside of just our regular advertising for board meetings. So it's a little bit nuanced. With that being said, our way of getting public feedback on the fee schedule has come through survey. Paula, as of now, I don't know that we've gotten any feedback regarding the fee schedule as it's been circulated out. Jerry, not seen anything either. Which typically we haven't seen much feedback when we would even hold it here, so we're not seeing anything on the survey as well. With all that being said, and if there were comments on there, we would read them to the board in this meeting for your consideration. before voting on the fee schedule. So we want a couple different things. Statutorily, this fee schedule has to be approved by April 1st under normal conditions. The State Board of Education has now kicked that deadline to June 30th, postponed it, given the circumstances that we're currently under. So the board has one of two options. We can table the item for future discussion. We'll continue to try and solicit public comment on the fee schedule. Or you can vote on it tonight, knowing that if we were to vote to approve, you could still go back and make changes. You would just go through the process again, make those changes, solicit public comment, and then re-vote on it at a future date. So you have a few options at your disposal. Staff are ready to proceed in any given direction the board may choose.
So when we went through this last time, there were a few holes that looked like in spend plan, but it looks like those have been filled in. Some of them are still kind of general, but I don't know if that is okay, or if you
Well,
still have further
Nothing's open for
questions.
me, so. I did look at it today, there were still some blanks there.
And so in some of those where the
Yeah.
blanks are, we grade those out. Now, I do apologize over the work session to go through this, but it sounds like there was a different spend plan that was being looked at last time, and so we've tried to plug some of those holes. Where you're seeing some of the spend plan, and I'll pull it up here in just a moment. If there's a blank there, it's because the description is kind of the plan is in the description, I'll put it that way. Unless there was a specific one that you had questions about that needed more description.
Would it be better to then just repeat it,
You could, yeah.
and instead of having it grayed out?
Yeah, for formatting,
Yeah,
yeah, we could look at that.
So our options are approve it with, because I think people have had opportunity virtually to make comments. And so we have, my memory said, we have not received any comments virtually at this point in time. I don't know if I would table it for that reason. I think we would have an opportunity to make sure we've had input and fulfill that part of the law. And if there really was some individuals who had some issues later on,
We can come back
we
to
could
it.
come back and be totally fine. Joyce, you saw, is that good or?
yeah, so how did this go out to
Via email,
community?
yeah,
Okay,
via email. And Jared, did it go out on any social media channels or it was just emails? And
This is exceptional, so we also posted it on the website homepage, posted it on Facebook, and then sent the email directly home to parents.
But understanding it's probably not a lot, or it's not probably top of mind for a lot of folks
Yeah.
right now. So yes, I think it's gone out in many channels. People have had that opportunity, but it may not be their thing that they're considering right now. But yeah, to that point, you can still approve it tonight and revisit it if you wanted to open it up later.
Fantastic.
And for some reason, it's not downloading on my computer either.
It's working on mine.
Now
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
The fee schedule?
No.
Who's on the Lord?
It
Well, you can
was
read it to
loading
us,
and
Dawn.
came and now it's-
I let Joyce look at it and she's happy.
Yeah, I have.
I know what's on there, I just can't pull it up on this particular,
So any other questions with regards to that? If not, let's look at
there it goes.
item 9B. Which is board policy revisions,
on attendance.
compulsory attendance and absence. I think I first saw
I
that,
don't
I
think
thought,
we did any changes
We did
after the
not.
first reading, we were good with it.
it was somebody was playing games on us. Because nobody's in school and we're talking about
Attendance.
attendance.
Nobody's tardy. no.
Compulsory, I thought, oh, wow. Any questions with regards to that item, as we looked at it?
Just a
No.
comment.
Thank you.
As these things tend to happen during legislative session, changes are made. And so while there may be a couple bills that we were following that might influence this, I think for now it's great to approve or vote on, I'll put it that way, knowing that there may be some modifications. But Policy and Law Committee would revisit those and make any changes and bring it back. But as of right now, I think we can proceed with it, knowing that some modifications may be necessary for changes in the law.
Remind, what modifications are they looking?
So there's just some definitions, changes in definitions, and how we might incorporate some of that and some of the requirements under those definitions in terms of attendance. So we're still, I gotta be honest, for the first time in a long time after a legislative session, I haven't had a chance to debrief all those changes with COVID-19 and other issues. So I do apologize for that, but we'll scrub what was passed or what wasn't passed during the legislative session to be able to do that. We just anticipate some of those changes, attendance being one of those areas we might make some adjustments.
Okay, thank you. Casey, I think action 9C is another one of your areas as far as,
The fiber network connectors.
questions, if we can, any board member may have to direct to Casey. Jeremy, Susan, do you have any here at the table? I don't see any.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
So we will. It's okay to do that item, 9C. Up. Now I think I'm
Good to see
starting.
him locked in the room, isn't it?
And 9D action item, Highland Junior High, the kitchen cafeteria remodel.
Really good.
I think that was self-explanatory as well. Ken did a good job.
Pretty straightforward.
Very straightforward.
Now, do we have understanding Mount Ogden's done, or is it?
Oh.
I know
I
this
don't
isn't
think
necessarily,
so. They still have their sign up.
yeah,
It's not done, so the exterior portion of it, because we built a walk-in and freezer on the outside of the building, that portion is done, and then, cutting the doorway into the kitchen is done. They are doing some work in the back, storage room that was where the current, freezer is. So they portion that, we're able to portion that part of the storage off so that they can do that without affecting the rest of the kitchen. And then they will have an opportunity to possibly do the dry storage and manager's office, before hopefully school returns. If not, then we may be able to just let them go ahead and finish the rest of it. So it kind of depends on how the rest of the school year goes. But they are not done. They have some of the larger lifts done, but they still have to do some of the storage areas, the office area, and also the cafeteria remodel.
thanks.
Thanks, Ken. It was very straightforward, so we appreciate that. Any other questions with regards to Highland? Okay, it's okay, we'll move that one to our consent calendar. Adam, are you there? We're gonna talk now about item 9E. All right. First one.
I am here, thank you.
Give us a little feedback as it relates to this item. Tell us about it, or just wanna answer questions?
Certainly, so this is a reminder, it's been mentioned before, that Ogden High is bringing on the IB career-related program. And along with that, we can expect some course requests for that. And this is the first of that. This is a required course, as a core course. So this is Kelly Bourne, the IB coordinator, and Luke, their first request, the personal and professional skills course, to kickstart and lay the foundation for that particular program.
Comments, questions? Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So what are you doing for your wife today? I understand it's your
But that's
birthday.
not what I'm about to do. I'm gonna take her to dinner, but,
Okay.
well, not take her to dinner. We're
Yeah.
gonna have eat out, and we're gonna pretend like we're out, so we're not fancy, but thank you for asking.
Good. Hope you have a wonderful evening. Any other questions for Adam with regards to that? Then we'll move that to consent calendar as well. Our last item this evening will be, we'll have a discussion item regarding school boundary considerations. anything you would like to tell us before that, Superintendent?
We're just in the process where, even though we're in the midst of the pandemic and other issues, we're still looking forward to planning for next year and to start the year off strong. Part of that is some of the moving pieces surrounding the completion of Wasatch, which is on schedule to open by this fall with that full and begin construction there. So we need to take a look at what those boundary adjustments looks like between Taylor Canyon and Wasatch, and as it may affect some other schools. But I'll show you a few thoughts there that we would then turn around and do some virtual community open houses and get feedback on, and then we'll bring that back to the board for consideration and a vote once we've had a public hearing. I don't know what a virtual public hearing is going to look like yet. And by that I mean if we can't have them, because under state law we need to have a public hearing, a formal public hearing regarding boundary changes, and so we'll need to determine how we do that. One idea is virtual, whether we set that up where people can call in, or we are looking into some legality if we were to put it out in survey fashion, if we could have public comment received that way, read during the board meeting for the board's consideration before making the vote. We're exploring a couple different options in light of current events.
Do you have maps here to show us that type of thing?
I do, yes.
I thought, what was it?
And I will be able to project those maps up onto these screens when all things come together for technology, which they will.
And just for some other items, our moment of reverence this evening will be by Zane, and our Pledge of Allegiance by Casey when the time comes. So we appreciate that. Are there any other items? You know, I'll say one thing. A week ago, it's amazing how fast the information from when we found out that SBA was, that seems like that happened 2 months ago. At the time, we talked about maybe wanting to do something that Friday night, April 3rd, because it sounded like a great idea. Well, that's going to be off the table as well. So we're trying to look at a mini retreat with our board members that night, and we will postpone that indefinitely. We'll see if there's another time if we want to consider doing that.
And board president, if I may, just calendaring item, March 25th is the USBA spring regional meeting. That will also be virtual. And that if you should have received the Zoom link for that meeting.
I think so.
If you haven't, please contact myself or Paula.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? If not, we're gonna take a couple minute break. Jeremy and Susan, thanks. Ken, thanks. Adam. Chad, you still there? Never was there.
I'm here.
Yeah, sorry to wake you up. We're gonna excuse Ken and Adam. You get to stay.
Planning on it. I've got my bowl of popcorn right here.
That's good. All right. Let's take a couple minute break. If anybody needs to stand up, and then we'll could potentially have the shortest board meeting we've had
Ever?
ever.
That would be in good keeping with social distancing.
And if Ken is still on,
Yep, I just said thanks.
well, I was just gonna commend you and the food service people for the jobs that they did today.
Yep, well done.
14,522 meals.
Well done. Please pass that on. We're grateful school board.
Phenomenal.
Our staff did amazing.
Yeah.
Nobody,
In the
there was
rain
one
and cold.
spot where we weren't able to give them breakfast and lunch, but every person, nobody got turned away without receiving food. So, we served over 14,000 meals a day between breakfast and lunch.
14,000.
Well done.
14,522.
How do they plan on that? How do they plan? Because they really don't have any idea how many kids are gonna show up, right?
Today was our
Yeah.
baseline
We'll
to
take a break
determine
first.
what that flow was going to
Hey, Ken, thank you, that's great news.
be. Yeah.
Yes, it
You're
is.
welcome.
Work with comparatively the other morning from here.
It's a.
Because that's like King Tut's. They did about 500.
on our virtual school board meeting. Those who are present physically in-house this evening are our superintendent, Rich Nye, our business administrator, Zane Wilson, all of the brains of it all, and we have board members Joyce, Jennifer, Nancy, Doug, and via technology, we have Richards and Jeremy Sonata. So we're grateful to have all of you here tonight taking part in this. We'll begin our meeting. I will say that there's a few items we're going to move to our consent calendar. That is items 9B, 9C, 9D, and 9E. We'll follow to our consent calendar here in a minute when we can take time to vote on that. We'll start our board meeting with a moment of reverence. Zane Wilson will offer that, and then following that reverence, Casey Bowd will lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, the opportunity to serve. We ask thy blessings upon this meeting this night, that the business that will be taking place will be guided and inspired and in the best interest of the students and patrons of our district. We're mindful of the challenges that we face in our community and throughout the nation, even the world at this time, and invoke thy blessings upon particularly the students and patrons of our district. Bless them at this time, that they'll be protected and not be impeded by this virus that is affecting so many lives at this time. We pray that the students will be inspired to do what they can to learn the best they can at this challenging time. We pray for our district leadership, that they'll be guided and inspired in their decision-making processes, that what is done will be in the best interest of the students. We ask thee to bless them with guidance and inspiration and the physical wherewithal to meet the challenges that we face each day. We pray again that thou wilt bless us with thy spirit this night, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Everyone please rise, say the pledge of allegiance with me. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Zane. And Cameron, thank you for making this happen. Appreciate that. A little different since we have two board members that are, and now I think I just lost, virtual. Are you guys really there? Or is this just a couple of pretty faces?
I'm really,
All right, I may have just lost mine. I did, so we just had our, thank you very much, Superintendent. Well, those items that were talked about previously in our study session regarding our consent calendar, plus those 4 items that were just added to it, items 9, B, C, D, and E. We'll move to our consent calendar. Are there any final questions with regards to that? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this month's consent calendar.
so moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
So a motion was made by Nancy, a second by Doug. We're gonna do a voice vote right now. So Jeremy, are you in favor of the consent calendar?
Aye.
Susan?
Yes.
Joyce?
Aye.
Don? Aye.
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 Thank you. Our consent calendar carries. We have 2 items now. One we had talked about briefly with regards to our committees, right, is that where we're at, where are we at?
So there's your financial board reports.
We approved all those, so let's move down to superintendent's report, business administrator report.
Thank you, Board President. Just want to give a report on some of the district's efforts and clearly take some questions or comments from the board in more of a dialogue conversation fashion. Yesterday, as all of us are very well aware, Ogden was also impacted by the earthquake, 5.7 magnitude. It shook our buildings and we had people on site and things really changed drastically that morning. I made the comment to my wife yesterday morning as I'm getting things together and I start to leave to enact pandemic protocols, only to turn around because of an earthquake. Honestly, I hope that's the first and last time I ever have to say that. And yesterday was, again, as these things become the substance of memories, hard to be forgotten, in many ways shouldn't be forgotten, certainly, but those memories are, although still being made, they're the substance of our finest moments. And I'm proud of the way all of our building sites, our administrators, our teachers, our staff, cabinet members, how we all responded very quickly for the safety and benefit of our families, of course, but for one another, and making sure that all hands were on deck. At the time it hit in one of those moments, we practiced a lot, these drills. They, of course, don't happen when we have kids in the classroom, which is in some ways even better. But our district emergency response team, as well as our school emergency response teams, are to be commended for their response. We initially, in terms of risk assessment, it's one of those situations where if it's safe to leave the building once it's determined the earth has stopped shaking, that we should do so. There were some determinations whether or not some could travel home to determine whether or not their homes and their families were okay. But when to travel is important, as well as knowing when to stay in. And site by site, they were able to make those determinations, and we're able to provide that direction. It was determined, and I will accept full responsibility if there's any negative consequences associated with it, but a determination was to close schools, to provide the meals for those that were already lined up, but as soon as there was a break, that we discontinue that, run our safety checks of the buildings, and make sure that our own employees their needs were being met as well. I believe it was the right choice, given the circumstance, and would make it again, given similar circumstances. But we did have several employees that remained on site throughout the day, checking maintenance, specifically going into the buildings, doing a visual analysis, determining if there were any damage. It was determined that there was some damage at Polk. We've had a structural engineer look at that today and determined the facility is still safe.
Where was it?
It's actually was in the 90s portion of the addition in the floor. So there was a bulge or a crack of some sort there, and but it's determined to be safe. We also had that structural engineer take a look at Tater Canyon and at some existing cracks that were already there from weathering, kind of in the plaster, and it was still structurally determined to be safe. So that's a celebration in and of itself, although this is a report that our buildings are still safe for occupancy. With that, we never lost sight of the COVID-19 protocols that were in place. Even though we were experiencing an earthquake, we maintained that. As you've already talked about, but it is worth repeating that 14,522 meals were served today. That serves as our baseline. Those are grab and go options. As you can imagine, that's no easy lift preparing individual sack lunches and breakfast, so to speak, for people. Those are largely drive-through stops, and so even though the weather was inclement today, we had some tents there set up so staff could remain dry. people can roll down their windows, receive the meals that they need, as well as the educational resources. We've checked out a number of Chromebooks. Casey has those numbers at the ready if needed. And the schools, the schools will be reporting that, and we'll have that at the ready. Because we are tracking what students are receiving the educational resources, what students have not yet received those, and then we'll, after tomorrow, determine who still hasn't picked those up. We'll start arranging contacts to make sure that they receive those resources. Now back to Casey, in terms of we have identified and are in the process of still identifying what students don't have connectivity, Wi-Fi at home, right? We can give a laptop or a Chromebook to a student, but if they don't have a way to connect to the internet, it becomes an act of futility on many levels if they don't have that.
Are those hotspots?
Yeah, so we've issued many hotspots. We have some that are being shipped, and soon is the last update from T-Mobile. They're going to ship us some hotspots so we can issue out those devices to students and keep track there. So, trying to provide what that meaningful home learning experience looks like, having identified what those barriers are, mitigating against those barriers and/or any wrinkles. And just kudos to our teachers, our administrators, our staff. As you can imagine, what a Herculean effort it is to take everything that you were going to do in the classroom and find a way to package it. Doug knows all too well, right? And Jennifer, I mean, in the schools, what that looks like to prepare a meaningful home learning experience for kids, and then even following up with them over these next 2 weeks to make sure that their needs are being met, not only academically, but social emotional. We have our student advocacy service team, our behavior specialists working on students or with students and families for those social emotional learning as well. Those are going out. We continue to follow the Governor's Office, the Department of Health, the CDC, and the State Board of Education's recommendations in regard to what we're doing. This meeting, I believe, is evidence of that in the virtual setting, as well as limiting to no more than 10 people, healthy people, in a room at a given time. And we continue to monitor that not only here, but in our schools, in our buildings here at the central office, to make sure that we do not contribute to the spread of COVID-19. With that, it requires additional coordination, given all these moving parts. So we've had daily virtual administrative huddles where we meet with our administrators in the afternoon to see what the processes of that day were like and what considerations and adjustments we need to make for the next day, knowing that this is new for all of us, certainly in our lifetimes, unprecedented. We also have cabinet virtual huddles to help that district level leadership coordinating together our efforts to make sure that we're all communicating clearly, concisely, consistently across multiple platforms. Again, it's been quite the learning effort, talking with some specific teachers. They miss their students, administrators. We miss our kids in our classrooms. We do. That has been an overwhelmingly consistent message. And so lots of hearts are breaking when they think they don't have their students or their students aren't in front of them. With that being said, teachers again have really stepped up in terms of what that learning environment looks like. They're recording messages, they're building class lessons in Canvas, our learning management system, and it's been phenomenal. With that, all these moving parts, the State Board of Education met today and essentially waived significant requirements, deadlines, reports, in light of everything that's going on. And so it was a great nod that the State Board of Education is very well aware of what we're facing and has relaxed a lot of those requirements that would be normally placed upon us. One of those is statewide testing has been discontinued for the year. So if you think of all the statewide tests, RISE, among others, Acadians in the elementaries, on down the line, those have all been waived. Now that will require the state superintendent, Sid Dixon, to request a waiver from the Department of Education, the federal government, to enact that. Our state is in a list of many that are seeking that same waiver. So I fully anticipate the Department of Education will follow suit. I've spoken a lot, and hard to capture everything that's going on the last few days in 5 minutes, but open to questions or comments from the board.
Tell me that number again, the meals.
14,522.
I guess there's no additional feedback from the state as far as how long this soft closure will take place.
No, we haven't received anything. They didn't. They're working with the Department of Health and the governor's office as well. There were no new updates. There have been no new updates in that regard. My thoughts are that we will go into next week, it being the second week of this. Now, granted, we have the luxury of having spring break, but the governor's office, the State Board of Education will have to make a determination at some point next week as to what
The future will be.
the future will be.
I've actually had people call me and wanna know what we're gonna do, and I says, if you listen to the governor, then we'll have a better idea. We're not.
Yeah.
Somebody else will make that call.
I would anticipate it's one of three options. One, they continue with the school soft closure, the school dismissal, the situation we're in now, and they would extend that. Option two would be school closures, district school charter closure across the state. And or three, resume operations as normal, which I don't anticipate that happening given where we currently are with COVID-19. But it's essentially one of three options. If there was a fourth one, I'm not aware at this point what that would be.
Another earthquake.
Heaven forbid.
Okay.
I just wanted to make a quick comment about how impressive it is how the district came together and put together some resources and some information for teachers to help them with their online teaching during this. And it's a huge effort, and the general public probably doesn't understand what a huge effort it is, top to bottom, to setting this up with kids. And hopefully we can work out to get all children, all students, the access to what they need to be successful at home. And I'm confident that we'll do that. But I just say kudos to the district and everyone involved in that. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, and I was inspired too. Last Fridays, we had professional development already scheduled, but we adjusted that to prepare for the event of something like this, and it was phenomenal. I was at, and I could say this at any campus, but I happened to be in person at Ogden High, and they brought their faculty together to discuss what it might look like if we go into school dismissal. And the first thing, one of the administrators stood up and said, all right, I need all those that are either Google certified or they teach an online anyway to stand up. A number of them stood up, and then it was pointed out these will be our resource to do what that is, and that's been capably led in our schools, and the resources that Adam McMickle and the training that has been put into place with he and his team has been remarkable to help with those types of things. So yeah, we sure appreciate all the efforts across that front.
It's like you didn't even skip a beat. Just kept going.
Well, and a lot of them didn't, especially in the secondaries where they're already using either Google Classroom or Canvas. My daughter had several of her classes that were already on Canvas, so it's just a matter of going in just as if she was absent for that day and getting her assignments. So yeah, it's been pretty
Very impressive. Very impressive.
good.
Yeah, I had a granddaughter come over and, print off her assignments and on her computer, and she was
Just ready to go.
yeah.
Thank you for that report. Business administrator.
Mine will be kind of short and sweet tonight, but we're in the middle of a big move. All these boxes are furniture that's being put together. We'll be moving a couple of the people, well, 3 of the HR staff would be moving into our space. There'll be 8 people in there. Probably starting sometime next week, after spring break for sure. Hopefully help the whole HR business office thing work more efficiently, effectively together. So everybody's working hard with that, and trying to not miss a beat with payroll next week and That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Zane. Now, it's on the agenda, so we're gonna talk quickly about it. We'll go through our board committee reports and see how long you guys all wanna take on it. But Joyce, we'll hear from you, anything you wanna say with regards to policy and law, and then Jennifer, student achievement, and then Doug, budget and finance.
Policy and law was scheduled to meet last Thursday, but because of the soft closure, we canceled that meeting, and we do have one scheduled for, I believe, April 11. We'll have to play it by ear on that. We may end
That's a
up doing some
Saturday.
type of a virtual meeting
9th.
the night.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Student achievement, boy, where's Chad?
He's
It's
online.
online.
Oh, is he online?
Yeah, but he can
Okay.
voice in.
No, we had some good conversation, mostly around Panorama and the how that's helping, how that's gathering information about students so that so teachers can best help students with their needs and pinpoint those needs. It was very impressive. We will probably be having, I think we came out of there with a decision, we were gonna have a presentation for the board on that. And then board members had an opportunity to review the proposal from the Douglas Aerospace Foundation that was given to you last month. If you haven't, read up on that. We were gonna have some information from the school district about our,
I have an update if you'd like.
Oh, you have
I didn't want to
oh,
interrupt you.
okay.
This-
Oh, no, if you have an update, that's great. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, as was presented before, we would like to take and grow that program a little bit differently than what it has been in the past to afford more opportunity for Ogden School District students to participate and Odyssey students. It's in their own building, but they haven't had as much opportunity as we'd like to see them have. So we are shifting gears a little bit on the Astro program in terms of the delivery of that and the curriculum surrounding that. And the commitment really is to continue to invest in that and to respectfully decline the Ed Douglas Foundation's offer. And so we're moving in that direction.
Okay. Yeah, and we were gonna have scheduled on a work session, maybe in April, to have a presentation. I don't know what our work sessions are gonna look like nowadays, so if that may or may not happen, but Tim was gonna.
Present.
He'll present the district's new direction. It's pretty impressive. They've been working on it for over a year. They've been putting things into the works and figuring things out, so. And that was it, was it not?
Trauma-informed practices.
Oh yeah, trauma-informed practices. Yes.
We just got an update from Chad about continuing to educate staff and us about trauma-informed practices.
Anything we need to be aware of with regards to that?
Yeah, I think that was kind of part of the Panorama, that information as far as, it's not just academic needs, it's social emotional needs and things like that, and it's really important for us. And we've been working on that for quite a while with a work group and an advisory group on trauma-informed schools to pinpoint best practices and best education systems so that we can bring everybody up to speed. So perhaps they know better why a student is behaving the way they are or performing the way they are or different things like that and best meet their needs.
Yeah, and you guys covered that. It's really
incorporating the trauma-informed practices into our strategic plan of Nexus Elevated, and really kind of back mapping, like what does a trauma-informed school or district look like in 5 years, and what are the steps that we need to make to get to that point. So starting off with really an awareness campaign and some professional learning around what are the different types of trauma, what are the strategies and approaches we're already taking as being trauma informed, and helping employees understand and depersonalize some of the behavior they might see that trauma informed lens. So we do plan to roll out some different initiatives in terms of kind of that overall understanding of what are some trauma informed practices. So more to come.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Jennifer?
No.
Okay. Doug, what do you want to?
Well, I think, in our budget meeting that we had on Monday, we just went over where the funds come from. Zane was having fun telling us about those things and how the budget is set up. We really didn't get into much after that, as in the different buildings. We were looking forward to going to one today, but they canceled it because everybody's scared. But, so I can't even think of all the funds right now, what the different ones we talked about, but, and he also explained to us to give how much we needed in millions of dollars to give a COLA versus the other thing. So it's pretty interesting in that side of it. You can keep your eyes open, but you know how money is to some versus to others. Zane, do you have any, if you want to say what funds we looked at, Fund 30 and those type of things, but the different things to give the raise for the different levels for the teachers and the administration, and then the certified, is it?
Yeah,
Classified.
That's pretty much it. We went through the minimum school program, talked a bit what 6% increase on the WPU does for us, and how much that means as far as, assuming the same average daily membership this year as last year, what that difference of increase makes, and how much it takes to cover the cost of steps, how much it costs to do a 1% cost of living adjustment for the staff. And we also spent a little bit of time going over the board financial reports that you guys get in your board packet every month to make sure that they were clear on what that information was. And I would just offer to any of you who are not part of that committee, if you ever have any questions about that, just to touch base with me. I'm happy to sit down with you individually or as a group to help you look and understand that stuff a little bit.
Zane,
It was very informative.
will you also explain for mainly, well, to all of us, but the benefit of the increasing of the WPU and that what the WPU actually does and for the long-term side of it?
So
That made sense.
I've not seen a 6% increase in the WPU, I don't think ever. That's kind of unprecedented. And for us, I mean, for every school district, that's a big deal. If all things being equal, which they're not gonna be, we know our average daily membership is gonna be less next year or this year than it was last. But, we're talking about almost $3 million of new money. But it also takes about, just out of basic, over $1.5 million to pay for steps and a 1% cost of living adjustment. So we'll be just looking at that really carefully. There are other bells and whistles attached to the funding that was done this year. Normally, we would have a BA meeting 1st of April and figure out where that's all coming. I haven't heard anything about that being canceled just yet, but I expect they'll find an alternate means to get that information out to us And as soon as I can, we'll be crunching numbers to see where we are. We canceled all of our negotiation meetings this week, and probably will for the foreseeable future until we've got some hard information to share. And how we conduct those, we'll have to see.
When do you think you'll have those numbers?
As soon as the state board is able to crank them out to us, so normally
Oh, we're
they
still waiting on some information
So,
from them.
so they basically take the information they're given from the legislature, and then they have to figure out what it all means, and then figure out what the distribution formulas are gonna be out to the school districts, and then run the numbers and send those out to us. And it's from that information that they generate the preliminary estimates that we get. And so, when do the superintendents usually meet in St. George? Usually first of April. I mean, so their goal of the state board is to try to get that information together in time for that meeting. Don't suppose they're gonna be doing that this year. We'll just see how that goes. So as soon as I have it, it'll probably be closer to the end of the month.
End of April,
End of March.
end of March, oh, okay, that's not too far away.
Yeah, it's hard to believe we're almost 2/3 of the way through the month.
That's ridiculous. Was there anything that, and I haven't, life's been crazy, so I haven't followed the legislature very closely, but was there anything that was a major hit below the line? Because sometimes when we get a increase above the line, we lose something below the line.
So it was an exceptional year this year. I think the legislature was more generous than they otherwise may have been, because the whole tax reform thing blew up in their face and they still wanted to make some things happen. They didn't want to fight the UEA, and I think everyone worked really hard and collaboratively to come up with something that was gonna be mutually beneficial. I'm not aware of anything below the line that got sacrificed at the expense
Great,
of the increase in the WPU. My understanding is they threw some one-time money at us. I also believe that the Teacher Student Success Act money will generate more for us this year than it did last. I do know the school land trust money is more than it was last year, to us by probably $150,000 or so. And so, I feel pretty positive about what's happened. I know they talked about like almost doubling the early interventions money as well.
Wow.
So we'll see how that all pans out. As far as at-risk funding, I expect that's gonna continue to go up too. So we'll just have to watch it. One of the challenges that we're gonna face, and we're already there basically, we got there last year, because we've been so aggressive with our salary schedule in the last couple of years. The special populations restricted programs like SPED and CTE, they're having a hard time keeping up with it. So we're gonna get to a point probably where we're gonna have to start subsidizing those programs, where heretofore we really haven't had to do that in order to keep this, to help them keep up with the salary schedule, because they're not having sufficient growth in those programs to actually cover the cost of the pay raises we're giving the staff that are being paid out of those programs. And so we're gonna be really close on SPED this year, and CTE, we'll just have to see how it all pans out. But I guess that's not a real bad problem to have.
Any other comments?
Sounds good.
Jennifer, Susan, board members here regarding our committee reports? If not, do things a little different in the sense that I don't think anybody signed up for public participation, but did anybody contact anyone for comments? And then we had our virtual opportunity for the fee schedule. Usually we would open time up if somebody wants to say anything, but I understand for every effort that we took, no one made any comments with regards to our fee schedule. So with that, I'll look for a motion to approve our 2021 student fee schedule.
So moved.
A motion's been made by Joyce Wilson.
I'll second that.
Jennifer Zundel second that, so we'll do another voice vote on approving our student fee schedule for 2021. Susan,
Yes, I'm for that, thank you.
Jennifer, or Jeremy,
Aye.
Doug,
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
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 Motion approves unanimously, thank you very much. All the other items were on the action item for tonight, were moved up to our consent calendar. The last item we'll have tonight is item 9F, a discussion item regarding school boundary considerations. Turn that time over to Dr. Knight.
Thanks, Board President. I am sharing my screen. I would like to share my screen. I am sharing my screen. And I would like to put that into present mode. Just a moment. Technology, just a moment. This should do it.
Superintendent?
Yeah.
Go ahead and, that's the screen you want.
Yeah.
Go ahead and stop presenting and then go back into presenting now that screen's up.
That should do it. But it wasn't in present mode, that was the only concern. So when I put it in present mode, it took it out of the other. So I can show it, but it won't be in present mode at the moment. Okay, is there any, that's the concern. Well, I think as the sidebar for the chat as well. Well, that we'll have to do. Unless, yes,
Hey,
perseverance,
look at you.
right? It worked. Okay.
Waiting for me.
Just troubleshoot it for a moment. All right, school boundary discussion. As you know, it's exciting. Wasatch is finishing, Polk's being remodeled and rebuilt, and there's the ripple effect of school boundaries that needs to be part of the discussion. As we know, Polk, the structure itself was large enough to accommodate all of Wasatch students. It's been crowded there this year, but the teachers, administrators, staff, they've been amazing in making it work, and students' needs have been made very doable at Polk. As you know, Taylor Canyon or Wasatch themselves, they're not the same size as the current Polk structure, and we had to move a portable into Polk as well. I mean, to accommodate the addition of Wasatch there. So with that being said, Wasatch is coming online, and we have a few things that we need to consider in terms of boundary adjustments that do impact communities. As we know, in the investment of building new schools and passing the bond, boundary adjustments would be necessary. I only show this is our literacy and graduation. These have become our fundamental decision drivers when we have a decision before us. And boundary adjustments are no exception. So we take a look at the elements of academic excellence, social emotional learning, and talent development, how this affects the employees of the Ogden School District. We have just a few decision drivers that come into play specifically with boundary adjustments. Recognize these from some of the decision drivers we've had in the past, but really look to minimize student displacement, knowing that when we close a school that students will be displaced. We would just seek to minimize the number of displacements once a school closes and another one is brought online through the process of completion of construction. Looking at equity and access, we want to enhance student programs and the opportunities available there. We have facilities, we'd like to use them as the best capacity that they have. And this is a little trickier, anticipate variances in enrollment. What are those adjustments in enrollment that may occur when we do open a new building? Because we've seen in some buildings that are opened, New Bridge being an example, Heritage Odyssey, Shadow Valley, it seems like more people come to school than they did originally or before that school was open. And so we're trying to anticipate variances in those enrollment. So with that being said, I'm going to show just a series, a process of thought really as we've worked on boundary adjustments, and I'm prepared to make a proposal. No decisions are being made tonight in terms of boundaries, right, as explained before, but some concurrence around how we then go about soliciting public feedback. And so I do have a proposal regarding a course of action, one in particular that I would like to be able to take out to the public and start getting their feedback on. So I'll just walk through about 4 different processes of thought. I'll be succinct, but as comprehensive as you need me to be to have the discussion moving forward. So this first one, it's a little bit delayed there. If you're to take a look, maybe I should stand up to this machine here, the screen, and show you what I'm talking about. And I don't know if our folks online are going to be able to see me do this, but these solid blue lines, I'm going to say they're blue, have been the existing boundaries. Before Wasatch was closed for construction, these were the boundaries of Wasatch, that solid blue line. These were the boundaries of Polk. Polk is there in that orange, what is orange? I think is orange, and then Taylor Canyon, so you kind of see the idea. So the thought is, if we were to start looking at this, if we take 27th Street, which is the street just below Polk, and send the number of students that are in there to Wasatch, everything north of that to Taylor Canyon, these how the enrollment numbers start to play out. So you see there Wasatch's capacity is approximately 600 students, right? It's put on the addition, they can accommodate more. Under this scenario, again, 27th Street South, that puts 423 students at Wasatch. Taylor Canyon has a capacity of approximately 545. That includes portables. That would result, with this line, 749 students at that school. That includes the ALA program. It would still be 620 students without the ALA program. You want me to smile, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, any questions on that? I mean, as you can see, as we start drawing boundary lines, the thought is, our initial thought is, well, you know what, that clearly exceeds what Taylor Canyon can accomplish. I mean, that ends up, not to make light of it, but we would start looking at double-decker portables. I don't know if that is a thing, but I mean, we'd have to find some way to do that. And as you know, Taylor Canyon is not the most level piece of property we own. So portables, even in general, become kind of tricky there.
Is that to Monroe on the west?
If I don't push the wrong button, I can show you here. So Monroe to the west is right here.
So it's Jackson, I believe, isn't that what it is? Or?
This one right here, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Monroe. So the one to the east, I believe, yeah, would be Jackson. And again, those are the existing boundaries if we just drew the line at 27th Street. Next one. Consider, is it not Jackson? Is it Jackson?
Might be Quincy.
Quincy? Maybe Quincy. Let me take a look. Zane, you mind taking a look, see what that road is that's just above there?
It is Quincy.
It's Quincy? Okay, it's Quincy. Enrollment numbers, consideration number 2, as you can imagine. So as we're saying, all right, how do we balance this out? If you were to come 2 blocks north for the Wasatch property, or boundary, excuse me, and so that green becomes the new boundary. And I will say in all of this, I'm sorry, but there's this block right here that has historically gone to Taylor Canyon under this proposal. I would just like to square that off and have them go to Newbridge. There's room. We've already looked at the numbers there. Each of these scenarios show that block going to Newbridge. All those, and maybe it helps with my tendencies, OCD, to say, you know what, we need to square that off. But boundaries don't work that way. But that one does. So in all those situations, that group would go to Newbridge. In this scenario, going 2 blocks north, that would then put 480 students at Wasatch. Taylor Canyon, capacity again 545, that still puts 681 students with ALA there, 550 students without ALA there, so it's a little bit closer to their capacity. And Nancy, I'll share these. I'll send you a PDF and everything. But you still can take pictures if you'd like. But I want you to make sure, and it will be in the board backup. And so you see there, we start getting there. What we're trying to do with Wasatch, so we don't do to the extent possible what happened at Heritage, what happened at Odyssey. The first day it opens, we put up portables there because the numbers that show up. We do want a cushion for enrollment at Wasatch, anywhere from 500 to 525. I mean, this starts to get a little bit closer there, which gives you anywhere from a 70 to 90 cushion. We've already had parents reaching out who have been sending their kids other places that have a desire to bring them to Wasatch when Wasatch opens. So we already know that there is, that's harder to quantify because you really don't know until the first day they open. But as you can see, that starts getting closer to those numbers. Under this scenario, we go 3 blocks north. You can kind of see the pattern here. You go 3 blocks north in this scenario and add them to Wasatch. Now noting all these students right here have been currently going to Polk with Wasatch kids already this last year. But then instead of going to Taylor Canyon because there's not room there, they'd end up going to Wasatch. Again, Wasatch capacity, so that's about 518, it gives about an 80 seat cushion, approximately. Taylor Canyon, we're still at 643 students with ALA, 540 students without ALA, given that boundary scenario.
Can you move your cursor around there?
I cannot because it's in present mode, so no, it doesn't allow.
How many is
Yeah.
sitting at TO at the moment?
There it is.
Actually, it was.
Did it move?
Mhm.
For those online? Now, can all of you see that well enough if I'm not pointing at the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe-
really can't see where it is, but.
Well, with that, how many is sitting at TO at the moment
Push
if,
it bigger.
TO,
because of their movement and that type of thing?
it's delayed on there. TO reminds about 500, 490,
490.
500, 505. 500. So yeah, right there. And knowing, I mean, and I'll show you this next one. Knowing that we're bring back, remember, I mean, we're taking T.O. Smith and we're busing them to Gramercy. That's what the families voted on in terms of their pros and the faculty. So we want to be careful with disrupting because we know the T.O. Smith students are going to be coming right back.
I'm thinking that they might jump, those closer ones may still jump up to Wasatch.
So as of right now, we're putting a
Hard no?
yeah, we're not accepting boundary exceptions at this time until, well, from other schools and until we know if they're out of boundary. The concern is we want to have space for those
Sure.
boundary students
Right.
in Wasatch's boundaries to have the option to go to Wasatch. So yeah, boundary exceptions aren't being accepted at this time. Now there are a few boundary exceptions that have been going to Polk right now that were part of Wasatch's before, and we would grandfather them in because,
Right.
for an example, you'd have a kid that started kindergarten there, and now they're in 4th grade, 5th grade, and they would just continue that way. So we have taken that into consideration as well. Last one, as we look at this one. This one shows, instead of going north, we go west. And then we take and extend James Madison's current boundaries east. And in that space, in looking at that scenario, we start getting, as you can see, kind of closer back to those numbers. Again, ALA, with ALA, we're still over the capacity of Taylor Canyon by quite a bit. James Madison is in state turnaround, and they've been doing a good job with the students there, building up systems of how they do education. It would be a disruption to James Madison. You'd have students in that scenario that have been going to Polk for, well, since 2000, when was it, 2008, 2009, when that boundary adjustment was made, that would then start going to James Madison. So in terms of disruption, that is some east-west boundary alignments. I do have a concern about James Madison and their state of turnaround at this point. So those are the four considerations before I go to I'll take board direction before I go to what I would propose, if there's any discussion regarding any of those scenarios, recognizing that we're just out of the gate at the moment. And this is the first time you've had a chance to look at those, but in a public setting, being able to have the discussion regarding those, or any thoughts that you have or questions that you might have that I could elaborate on.
Any questions from anyone? Otherwise, I think maybe there may be more questions as you give us some additional considerations.
Sure,
Does
I can
this
give you a
map
proposal.
Does it actually identify the street names?
That's what I was gonna ask.
This map does, I mean, a
Or
couple
is
of
it
them.
just small?
It's
Or just
small.
main roads?
Just main roads.
Okay.
The ones that you're gonna send to us, will it identify them, or is it just?
No,
like
I would
these?
send these to you, but I mean, we could
It
put
would
them
be
on
nice
a,
to know
we
where,
could put on a
Harrison
map,
is.
right? So this is, and again, I'm standing up here, and so this is Harrison.
okay,
And again, the solid blue is what the existing lines were above and below Harrison, and then Monroe. And I believe, Jeremy and Susan, you're able to see my screen. Is it large enough for you to be able to see?
Yep.
Okay. 24th Street, 27th Street, so on.
Rich,
Yes.
I just wanted to comment that we can't see the screen, we just can't see what you're referring to, what you're pointing to.
Okay. Trying to use the names of the streets and the colors, if that helps at all. I'll try and do that a little bit more. Again, the green is Wasatch proposed boundaries. Purple, I'm going to say it's purple. It's not pink. I have trouble with my purple. I am colorblind. Purples and pinks. It's pink.
It's pink to me.
Dang it. Pink.
Newbridge is purple.
Pink is.
Lavender. Sorry.
Pink is James Madison. I'm going to assume yellow
Yellow.
is Taylor Canyon, proposed boundaries, and Newbridge, baby blue.
Newbridge is lavender.
Lavender. Newbridge is lavender.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not good for me to try and use my color associations.
TO's blue.
TO's blue. Okay. But those are, in the process of thought, really what we're trying to accomplish is hitting the sweet spot with the numbers. As you can see, in each of those scenarios, it fluctuates, whether you go north or west or however you may look at that. Really dialing in the numbers to maximize capacity and provide opportunity for students is what we're looking at. Knowing that once all of our projects are finished in 2 years, I would recommend that we do at that point do a boundary analysis, and there may be some significant boundary adjustments once all all of our construction projects are completed. Knowing that we'll have to revisit it at that time anyway. There's a few ways though, as we're considering that, how we minimize student displacement. Of course, not knowing what significant changes need to be made, if there are significant, once the buildings are completed, all our construction. Want to move to a proposal and get feedback on?
Yes, please.
So one proposal that I would recommend getting more feedback on from you, if you decide from the community, is this consideration where we take not disrupt James Madison in their state of turnaround. Last thing, and I don't think we would, but in my mind, if we were to adjust boundaries while they're in turnaround, would we get accused of gerrymandering the outcome of state turnaround? But with that being said, minimize the disruption with James Madison. This would go 3 blocks north for Wasatch, and I would propose feedback on moving the Accelerated Learning Academy, ALA, from Taylor Canyon to Hillcrest. Hillcrest has been, their enrollment has been, well, it's the lowest now of elementaries in the district. It would help with their enrollment numbers as well, as provide additional resources for them, and would create the space we would need at Taylor Canyon in any of these scenarios. Theoretically, we could take Taylor Canyon, keep ALA there, but then we would significantly disrupt boundaries from Shadow Valley, Teal Smith, James Madison, and Newbridge, essentially, to be able to create the space that we would need if we were to keep ALA there, which is a possibility. Like I said, I think that it's more significant boundary adjustments will be made in 2 years as needed. That puts, as you take a look at that, that puts Wasatch at 518 students, Taylor Canyon 514, and 505, right around that 500 range at all 3 schools.
ALA stayed pretty steady on their numbers.
In my tracking of it, it's been right around that 125 to 145 range. So there has been a lot
Including
of
siblings or just the ALA students?
That's ALA students. So there are, and I think this is where it helped Hillcrest enrollment as well, there are students that are in ALA that have siblings in the general scholars, I think is how Don Mendenhall refers to them, the general scholars, which helps. I mean, and so as you can imagine, if a parent had children want an ALA program, they wouldn't necessarily want to drop them off at 2 different elementaries, right? And so they do, and that there are instances of that.
Do we know, well, I'm sure you do, but the numbers more from, where are they coming from? Is it more from around the Taylor Canyon area because it's a Taylor? Or is it coming, cause I do know some even in my own neighborhood that goes there, but.
Yeah, out of district,
But,
or not, excuse me.
Out of boundaries.
Out of
Close,
boundaries,
but
out of
not
boundaries, out of boundaries, yes.
Yeah.
So the last numbers I looked at, there was 33 students from Taylor Canyon. So by percentage, it's larger in that neighborhood. But it's not an overwhelming majority in terms of single majority. But it is, I mean, by percentage, it is still more than other areas. And I wasn't here for that day, but I believe it was at Hillcrest.
Yep.
Yes.
At one point.
That's where my children attended it, was at Hillcrest. The ones who did.
So that's a lot to take in about 10 minutes. But we've been doing some homework on this, working with the city and their GIS system to be able to plot this. We want to approach it as data driven as possible to make sure that we don't overrun any one individual school or under.
I'm a little
Enrollment
curious about
numbers.
Hillcrest's capacity at 700.
That's including portables.
Okay, because I was gonna say, when my kids were there, I think we had 450 students there. It was pretty full.
Yeah.
So,
So we did, the capacity analysis we did in 2018, included the portables, and correct me if I'm wrong, Zane at Hillcrest,
How many?
that did not take into account rooms they were using for like special ed.
The school capacity count does not include those for
Special ed, yeah.
How many portables are at that school right now?
like 9.
They've got them on the east and on the south,
3 doubles or 4 doubles?
or at least 4 doubles.
Yeah, I think they got 4
It's
doubles.
like 9, it's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Are you looking on Google Earth?
Easy anymore, isn't it?
While he's looking that up, I like your proposal.
So, total classrooms, not counting, so building capacity, we're talking about Hillcrest. It's 461, and then you've got portable capacity of 244 for a total of over 700.
How many
They
students
have
per portable?
9,
Yeah, they've got
9, they have 9
2 doubles
portables.
and 5 singles.
9 portables, and we,
Did he ask how many students per portable? Jeremy asked, I think,
yeah, it's based on our
Class.
and size of the
Class size.
portables.
class capacity of 27 about. I know they will have to shuffle up how they're doing some things up there to make that work, cause I mean,
Yeah, and I've brought in.
I've found that the need for space grows proportion to the number of portables you have on site.
There's some truth to that.
There is. Space is always needed. at
Always,
school,
always. And it will be used. You provide it, it will be used. And so you know, I brought in the administrators from those schools, talked about this. We went through some pros and some cons. Again, there's cons associated with any course of action, but knowing that we need to take a course of action, we want to maximize that. And so they in each of the scenarios, they acknowledge just what Zane said. It would require some shuffling and some adjustments, but it's something that they would support.
What's the street, the green and the yellow come together?
2700 or 2700, 27th.
Okay, like on the other.
Yeah, runs east and west. Yeah, it's the same. That allows Polk, the building site itself, to remain within what may be a future boundary that may not need to be adjusted, right? So it allows, so instead of moving the line, that 2700 north line further north in that fashion, then you would encompass Polk, which in the future may actually, we let's just say that it's more of a tentative permanent line than it would otherwise be if it were moved north, right? So in other words, the school itself wouldn't be in the school
Yes.
boundary, right? So that's kind of why that 27th Street has remained fixed across the scenarios, is to allow it to stay north in what may be potential permanent, air quotes, boundaries in the future.
Is Polk identified on there?
It is, it's
One right above the green.
yeah, right above the green, that little schoolhouse here.
Oh, you just went.
That's the Polk.
Okay.
So it's actually Schoolhouse Rocks just the other day.
Too soon.
The earthquake. That I get through.
That's Polk.
How many portables do you think would fit on Taylor Canyon?
Few.
Steve talked like they could get one or maybe two, but it would be tight.
Not 5.
I mean,
No,
if you put them up on the field and you weren't worried about
playground,
connectivity and play space, there's
Utilities,
and utilities.
safety.
I mean, there's space up there on the field, but in proximity to the utilities, I think we thought we could squeeze one more kind of
on asphalt,
on asphalt. The rest
would be on dirt,
would have to be up on grass or dirt.
which I don't know what the codes would suggest with portable just being on dirt. I don't know. I'm checking my, I don't know.
Well, the portables at Hillcrest, the ones on the south, are on what used to be the grass, the lawn.
Yeah, so did they put a gravel bed under that, or did they have to put asphalt under that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I haven't paid
Doesn't
attention.
seem like they have at Mount Ogden.
So I mean, either way, there's a question of room. We did ask maintenance to evaluate that, and the utilities aren't there either, so it'd be a significant lift to put portables temporary for what our 2 school years. But we did explore that and ask maintenance to take a look at that. And there is one that could be partially situated on asphalt. The rest would be up in the playground, grass.
Comments from board members?
Well, this shows least disruption. That's probably what you're going for,
In this scenario,
so. That's
Rich,
Susan,
did you say that you're the happiest with this proposal?
Happy's least disruptive on that continuum, yes. And the reason being, I'm looking at the students that have been going to Polk under the old Polk boundaries for a considerable amount of time, would have been with Wasatch students. They would continue with Wasatch students at Wasatch in that space. I think there is value, and I've expressed it to the board before, of looking at what might be some more eastern and western type boundaries. But again, I think that's a discussion that we could certainly have and explore in 2 years once T.L. Smith is finished, Horace Mann is finished. We can take a look at that. But at the time being, where James Madison is in state turnaround, T.L. Smith is being rebuilt. I think this scenario balances out enrollments. When it comes to Happy, I think it'd be great not to disrupt the ALA program under these scenarios. We've been hard pressed to figure out how to do that without bringing in quite a few more portables to Taylor Canyon, which is a lift also. While at the same time helping Hillcrest's enrollment numbers and being competitive with other educational programs in that local area. I think there's some upside there. Pros and cons, Susan, I'm sorry, I'm not being very clear in my answer. Is it the one that I proposed because I think at least I have my reasons, my pros as to why that is? Yes. Are there some cons associated with it? Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
I guess the thing that bothers me is you've got this school at Wasatch with, the boundaries around.
Mhm.
You've got Polk on the very edge of its boundary. And then, are you gonna have busing? Is that?
Yeah, so for that more northern part of Wasatch, we would provide, we have, or we would, we'll look at it, but I believe, they would qualify for busing.
Well, and this is where the conversation came in, and the public just wouldn't have us do anything with Polk other than rebuild it, so therefore, that's the school. So
That's
it'll
not,
have to be accommodated that way for
and that's not uncommon,
No.
I know.
because there's, Boulder County has quite a few right on the border.
But you may have some that are right close by there that, go for, boundary exception when it opens, I don't know, but then when it opens, when Polk opens, we'll be relooking at the boundaries anyway, correct?
We will,
Are you-
recognizing that when it's open, we'll create a cushion initially and then see how
Yeah,
the enrollment, I don't wanna call it dust because it's, but the enrollment dust begins to settle down.
Yeah.
We get an idea of who wants boundary exceptions, who decides to come back to the school now that it's new and opened. There's a lot of variables with the enrollment that are hard to pin down until probably about a year until after when. And we have a feeler of a baseline.
Wasatch's capacity is gonna be a lot more when this project is done than it was. And so you're gonna need to expand the boundaries to fill it up, and really, the only way to go is north.
Do you,
Yeah, in
do you know
terms of
how many
disruption, we
students,
talked last too.
do you know how many
Potentially,
students
they're,
are on the street that you're splitting? I mean,
How many students on which street?
of the 27th, are you splitting 27? I
So,
mean, one's going one way and one's going.
yeah, so we know,
Well, it's that way now.
Yes, well,
Across the
it's just
street
don't,
from me, they go to Polk.
right.
My
Well,
side,
it's
they go
that
to
way
Wasatch.
everywhere with any school, and I
Yeah.
just wondered how many.
editing line at some point, yeah. So we've looked at the numbers. We sliced this pie in about as many ways. Zane's nodding head because we spent, to that point, right? We have it down, this program that we use, we have it down where if you just highlight a block or a street, it tells you automatically how it populates in one school and how it deducts from another.
Mhm.
And so we've gone through narrow pieces here, trying just to hit that,
is,
lack of a better word, sweet spot
Sweet.
across the schools.
are those our numbers or people numbers?
Those are our numbers,
So we-
so database. So all of our students, all of the students that live in the area that may not attend our schools but are attending charter schools and or private schools. So those are the number of youth
Kids that live in those neighborhoods,
in these lines.
wherever they
How
go.
has,
So these numbers don't, these numbers
moving-
reflect our current
how
students.
has moving the ALA program affected it in the past, or has it moved?
Yeah, it's moved
Yeah.
probably 4 times,
Right.
which isn't awesome either, hasn't it? 4, was it D?
to Hillcrest?
Was it a Heritage once?
Oh.
yeah, and then it went to Heritage, and then it went to Taylor Canyon.
Yeah, so D, Heritage, Hillcrest, and Taylor Canyon. In terms of impacts, I haven't been able to
Well,
determine that.
I've noticed
It would be
that
a-
when they moved from Hillcrest to Heritage, there were some families who they were in the Hillcrest boundary and their children were in ALA and they chose not to follow them to Heritage just because they didn't want to tote their kids. And that's understandable, and I think you have that regardless of where it moves to.
We had the same thing.
Yeah, we had this same thing when it moved to Taylor Canyon. They seem to pull a few more students from the boundaries they're housed in, but like you said, it's not a single majority.
We have the numbers for where all of the kids reside who are in 10, who are part of ALA as well as DLA schools.
And
We
we're
have
working
that
on some different
information
numbers.
based on the October 1 count.
And some heat maps that can show that. So we were able to take a look and see where the students were coming from for different programs.
So about half,
That would,
was it about half
that
of,
additional information would help in the community feedback
Yeah.
discussion.
What
Yes,
is
and we'll
the-
de-identify that. Yes, we can do that. We just want to share student information. We could probably share the aggregate for sure.
Moving ALA to Hillcrest, I think, that's fine. Other than when Hillcrest is rebuilt here, hopefully in the nearer future than the farther future, that's another disruption to it. So I don't know, I'm just, what's the enrollment and the capacity of Newbridge?
The capacity is up about 800. approximately 800, and its enrollment right now is just over 700,
Oh.
7.
Yeah, that's not gonna work either.
Yeah.
Well,
I think with Hillcrest, and Zane, I'll ask you, you've been working with maintenance too on this, is when the day comes to rebuild a Hillcrest, can we do it on site like we did at
Yeah.
Horseman?
yeah, we can.
It's a big lot. It's one of our bigger lots.
They have
It's
as
11
much
acres.
land to the south as they do where the school sits, so
So it's, I would think in that scenario that the disruption would just be
that's true.
some construction and not necessarily moving schools.
What's your plan for, parent involvement in this?
So virtual open houses. So what we would essentially do is push this out as early as tomorrow to families, saying this was discussed in board meeting, and to create a space where they can leave comments.
Okay.
It's one of the bigger school sites.
And then I would take that information, share it with the board. Again, trying to decide how we might have a public hearing virtually to address that. But we would definitely provide the comments that we would receive from the public and share those with you for your consideration as you look at the different scenarios. Or this specific scenario moving forward.
Any other additional comments? Are we okay with having the superintendent move forward with getting this information out to the community?
I've got another question. How does the placement of the ALA program affect like report card rating? Does it, placing the ALA program in Taylor Cannon, did it boost it? And it'll do so, you think, if it goes to Hillcrest?
Yes, it does. It does. Certainly, there's a lot of children that perform very well on statewide assessments in our ALA program. So it did lift the overall scores of Taylor Canyon, and it would do the same, I would imagine, at Hillcrest. It's been that case, whether it was at D or Heritage as well. So yeah, there is a pattern there. There's a pattern there that follows their performance. And if I really wanted to be accused of gerrymandering, I would move it to James Madison. They would be out of state turnaround tomorrow, so to speak. Kids perform in the ALA program, they perform very well on statewide assessments, but we're not gonna do that at the moment either.
Any other questions or comments?
I want to chew on.
I just had a thought. I'm just wondering if now is a good time to be asking parents about this, if maybe they're not about other things like the coronavirus right now? I don't know, what do you think?
Well, that's true, Susan. I had the same thought, right? This in my mind isn't as pressing as some issues. I have spoken with a few community members and consulted with teachers administration at Polk, who are being asked on a regular basis still, even in light of COVID-19, what those boundaries are going to look like next year. So it is. Well, and I can't quantify that, how many in that community really have this as a top of mind issue, but I do know that the conversation and the question is being asked still regularly in light of all that we're doing in the pandemic. So I have the same question, but I for that reason asked, and that was a response I had received as well.
Well, we've got to give the schools time to prepare for whatever's.
Adjustments need to be made.
People have been asking for some time for this, so.
Well, they wanna know where they're gonna go.
We don't have the luxury of waiting too much longer, and thus virtual information is better than no information.
And it's a starting point for discussion. So again, no decisions regarding these boundaries specifically, other than, what do you feel we should get feedback from the community regarding? Knowing it is a starting point, we may very well land in this same space. Depends, right? It depends what the feedback is and what other thoughts or direction the board
With the
would like to
feedback,
take.
you might make some adjustments and, you know.
We will sharpen our pencils and, or boot up our computers and try and do some more slicing of the pie, based on that feedback. But yeah, we feel comfortable at the point where we could get some feedback, having done our homework, to line up some things the best as they have lined up. Knowing that still.
Okay. Thanks, I'm ready to go for it then.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from anyone? If not, how about we entertain the thought of adjourning this meeting?
Let's do it.
Sounds like a great idea. It sounded like kind of like a motion. Anybody else wanna chime in on that?
I'll second
I'll
Jessica's
second.
motion.
Wonderful, thank you. His version of leaving a meeting is hitting a button. So again, thank you all for coming this night, and we appreciate you being here. And again, grateful for the staff and everyone who's done some incredible things the last week and will do in the next few weeks, or as long as we're in this situation. So
Be safe.
be safe and thank you, everybody.
Be safe, be healthy.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.